Anduin, it's been so long.
No, let's try something else.
It's been so long.
Nah, let's do something else.
Oh, you deserve more than that. My father is dead because of you!
And my father is dead because of the old gods.
My mind's telling me no.
Classic. Let's go with that one.
What are you trying to make anyway?
Somebody commissioned me to make a commercial for keyboards.
Keyboards? Wait, what?
Hey, it's Soul, and welcome back to another episode of Warcraft Weekly, the show that is just like the familiar weekly reset, only without the accent, and the girl, and the floating talking head.
But hey, you've got me.
And the whimsy, and the professionalism, and the shit show. I mean, can you believe it that I bleep out something like shit show?
That's fucking stupid.
Yeah, right? But we have you, special precious visitors like you and our patrons who make it happen, including the latest addition to the family, Val the Gene.
Is it not Valve Gene?
I don't know, it just begs enunciation. I mean, stressing Val the Gene doesn't roll off the tongue very well, but Val the Gene, it sounds a whole lot smooth.
Oh my god, stop.
Well, I never wore my pearls. Anyway, if you're interested in helping the channel, visit the Patreon link below, so I can butcher your name too. So you might have heard from me for the past, I don't know, 3 or so months, but patch 8.3 is finally here. It finally came, despite some bonkers ass theories that there wouldn't be an 8.3, and in a surprise, not really surprise, a trailer that I think was released a little bit after the US realms came up, which was, well, I mean, that's okay. Including Rathian's cinematic debut, permed hair and all. Not even a healthy swing from Anduin is enough to ruin his day, but keep at it, son. Keep going. It's been a few days, but you weekend warriors are now descending upon the likes of Uldum and Pandaria for shenanigans and farming and getting sky-f***ed. So how are people feeling about the patch so far? How do I feel? We're going to get to that in just a little bit, but first, let's talk some smack about what else went down this week. A new store mount reared its head in the Blizzard store, making it the third mount to appear based on the Chinese lunar calendar. Squeakers the Trickster is here with a very animated look, and the response of players is exactly what you thought it would be. So how much is this bad boy? There are 3 answers. It's $25 in the shop, or it costs this much gold in the US and this much gold in the EU. Go WoW tokens. Or you can sign up for a 6-month subscription to WoW and you get the mount with your subscription. What's more, if you're already signed up for a recurring 6-month subscription, you already get the mount. This is all thanks to a simple promotion of keeping up your subscription and you get free stuff. So if you are one of those people, check your gifts in your Battle.net client. This sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? In fact, it establishes something interesting that I would like to call a pattern. Over the past 16 months, starting with the much beloved Dreadwake mount, WoW has been releasing a series of mounts that fall into a category that I'm going to call promotional mounts. Those of you who have stuck with a recurring 6-month sub to WoW have been getting a mount for free, with no additional work or effort needed.
Well, I use WoW tokens and I play for free. It's dumb that I can't use WoW tokens for the promotion.
Well, you obviously make enough gold, you can just use WoW tokens to buy the mount, genius.
Shut the front gate.
It kind of seems like, without making an official announcement, Blizzard has been using these promotions as an unofficial loyalty reward system. 3 free mounts that only require an active 6-month commitment isn't that bad. Not making it official means Blizzard doesn't have to pump out mounts every 6 months out of some sort of obligation. These 3 mounts, they also weren't launched with any sort of consistency, but we can see what's going on. As for me, I just use WoW tokens to sub and I use WoW tokens to buy the mounts because I can. So it's nice to have the options, including just not buying things. Imagine if the alpaca mounts were a store-only thing, that would go really, really well. But I know people don't feel the same way I do. Let me know what you think of Blizzard's approach with this in a comment. Speaking of cash money, with patch 8.3 and the launch of these new allied races, these metal gnomes and the fuzzy goblins, select character services are on a 30% discount until February 3rd. Damn, that's still hella expensive. You know, I get it when people say character services are too expensive. Just a thought, but it would be kind of cool if they could cost like nothing, but have some sort of restriction like a 30 or a 60-day cooldown. And if you still wanted to buy some sort of service while that cooldown is in effect, then you paid a premium, you know, something like that. I can sort of understand where reducing the cost of services could go horribly wrong or right, depending on your approach. I mean, if it was cheap enough, it'll encourage people who would otherwise not be interested in paying to pay. And that's what this sale is sort of doing, right? It's hitting this target audience with a compelling reason to throw down. But can services be too cheap? Like, at what point would character services be less of a service and more of like an impulse, leading us to spend even more money than we would have?
How about you shut up and just say make it $5 cheaper?
Or there's that. Moving on, just before the patch launch, Blizzard made a statement clarifying some of the transmog rules that are set for legendary gear, which is supposed to be a thing in this patch, and they pretty much nerfed the whole thing. It turns out that for legendaries obtained via questline, these legendaries can only be used by classes that can start that questline. And below is a handy dandy chart of who can use what, all courtesy of Wowhead. On top of that, the many players who farmed for the Warglaze of Azeroth will not be able to access this transmog. Only demon hunters who obtain the glaze via time walking will get access to them, leading to an absolute frenzy over on Wowhead forums, and I'm sure the official forums too, about anything and, well, just anything negative that you can say about this development. I totally get how some people are feeling salty over this. Like, this was finally the validation for all the time that you spent farming for these legendaries in the hope that someday, your Tauren can play a demon hunter. But for a class who only has a fraction of the transmog as other classes for their own signature weapon that only they can use, you still don't care, do you?
Nope.
Okay. Next week, Ny'alotha, the final raid of Battle for Azeroth begins, and the week after that, the world first race. Once again, top guilds Method and Limit are staging broadcasts and stringing along the rabble, just kidding, the other top guilds, as well as personalities to translate whatever the heck that we're seeing on screen. Last season, I watched a chunk of Queen Ashara progression, and I gotta say that the most interesting of the streams, at least for me, was of Limit Guildmaster Max, which didn't really cut off to commentary. It was just him and his guild. They were just in a raw stream, and I thought that was pretty cool. I could just try to understand it on my own as opposed to someone else telling me what it is that I'm supposed to see.
So did you get what was going on?
No, not a thing. They just wiped, like, a lot. So let's move on to, well, the patch. How did things go in these first few days? I'm going to share some of my boots on the ground impressions. The realms came up a few hours early over on the US side, and shortly after the trailer was released. And not long after that, a very healthy number of memes. Without going into the nuance and detail of like this full cinematic analysis, it was straightforward, but emotionally heavy. It was urgent and hectic. There is a sort of missed opportunity here to try and tie in just what N'Zoth's impact on Azeroth has been over the world's entire history, but the idea here was to sell on the immediate urgency to characters that we're more familiar with. That's kind of the MO of WoW. The days leading up to the patch, with people preparing by farming rep for extra Paragon chests, that felt great, seeing the world feel revitalized with the excitement and the urge to stay ahead. The patch day though, it was magnitudes greater. It felt overwhelming, and it showed. It brought the world server over in Pandaria to its knees with relentless lag. The campaign, which frankly could have been designed as a stretched-out experience over the course of several weeks, is instead mostly accessible, which reveals this double-edged sword of not time-gating content. Like, which is better? Getting the experience done and over with in one go, or spacing it out with respect to sit-down time and numerous alts. Traveling back and forth between Uldum and the Vale is a pain, no doubt. Even with teleports, it's still kind of ugh. Some of the dailies were also a pain, notably farming rares, but I found the side objectives, which were basically like world quests without a marker, a bit less structured, which made it feel a little bit more random, and I found that pretty enjoyable, because suddenly I would just be going around, but I'd run into something like a ridiculous puzzle or a bunch of mobs to kill. Here's what I found particularly eye-opening though. So on my first day, I stuck to my main, my paladin, and I did everything. The campaign, the visions, the dailies, the objectives, the rares, all the stuff, all the things. On the second day though, I noticed, and I think others had noticed, that on the second day, there's just a lot less to do. I mean, there were dailies and rares and objectives, but there's a lot less urgency to do them, considering how the loop between doing these things and horrific visions work. So did I need to do them? Well, yeah, of course it's my main, and hey, maybe I would get a mount or pets or something, but once I did all that stuff, I was like, now what? I guess I'll just do stuff with an alt.
You what?
Yeah, I switched to an alt. I did the campaign, and I did the skips, of course, thank goodness, and I picked up a few dailies, but I didn't do them all. I think I did one of them, maybe. It just wasn't a big deal. And then on the third day, I did all the same stuff. I farmed on my paladin, then I switched to my alt, which was a hunter. I did all that stuff too. I did what I felt like. I gathered some fell warts, and then I got on another alt.
Wait, you have another alt?
No, not exactly, but I tried, and I really suck at a warlock, but I got into it, and I had fun, and I didn't even finish the campaign, but that's okay. Meanwhile, my paladin and my hunter, they're easily poised to max out their cloaks for the week, and I'm looking at 8.3 as this thing that I can access fairly easily on multiple characters without nearly as much farming as I thought I would. Now let me bring this back to reality. Not having this full battery of essences on my alts, it is a bummer, but I wasn't exactly naked either, and I still had all the tools that I needed to survive. The world mechanics in Uldum and the Veil are still interesting and powerful enough to give an uncomfortable experience a solution to make it better. This is going to sound insane, but 8.3 as standalone content is very alt-friendly.
As in, there's very little to do.
Yes and no, because I can grind my face off for more visions if I wanted to, or I can step backwards and work on these essences that I missed out on. So as a whole, the jury's still out on whether Battle for Azeroth is really that fulfilling for players with a lot of characters, but I do plan on like this complete 2020 review of Battle for Azeroth. As in, is it a good expansion to play for those fans who are probably not you, who prefer to play once everything's out? Because those players are out there. Anyway, no patches without its bugs, and 8.3 is no exception. I didn't run into the same problems as others, and I didn't run into most of these problems in testing, but it is what it is. Between lag and some broken quests and dailies, and even this weird phenomena with dailies resetting if you log out and log back in. Like, I hope you folks didn't do it.
F this bad, I got banned again.
But these are only small impressions, just a couple of days into this patch. Season 4 starts next week, and then the unbearably long wait until early Shadowlands reveals start coming in. So we're really going to start to feel the strain, and we'll revisit these thoughts later. But that's going to wrap up the news, and well, so far so good on 8.3. Of course, my experience is not your experience, so I'd love to hear about your impressions on the patch so far. Are there any awesome stories that you have to share? What are you liking or not liking? Also, you can look forward to part 2 of my Horrific Visions guide, where we go deeper and try to survive our way through the corrupted zones of Orgrimmar and Stormwind, and see what in Season 4 will help us along too. So please, if you don't mind, hit that like button if you enjoyed yourself today, and subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.